If you are brand new to the iPad, or if you just want to expand your knowledge when it comes to the different settings and features that are available, then this is the video for you. Here, fresh from Costco, is a brand new 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and we are going to crack this thing out, and we are going to go through the entire setup process, and I'm going to review all of the different settings that I recommend. I'm also going to teach you all of the most important multi-touch gestures and so much more. Heads up folks, this video will be a lot longer than my normal videos, so if you would like to skip ahead at any point in time, please know I will put time codes with their respective chapters down below in the video description. New to iPad, coming up next on Tech Talk America. All right folks, here it is, the moment of truth. Here's the seal. Let's open this puppy. Ready? Here we go. And let her drop out. So here we have it, brand new, 12.9-inch iPad Pro. There you go. Let's start with talking about some of the different buttons and some of their functions. Here on the top of the iPad is appropriately named the top button. If you press and hold it, that turns on your device. If you click it once after it's already on, that puts it to sleep. If we rotate the iPad, here we have the volume buttons up and down. If you press the top button and the volume button at the same time, that's how you take a screenshot. Over the course of this setup process, there are going to be some parts that I'm going to fast forward just to save time. As I said a moment ago, when you press and hold the top button, that's how you turn on the iPad. When you do, you'll see the Apple logo, and eventually it will bring us to a welcome screen. I'll now swipe up from the bottom and select my language as well as my country. Quick Start is an option if you already own an iPhone or iPad and you just want to simply copy all of the information from either of those other devices to your new iPad. If so, then you can use this feature. But for this purpose, we're going to set things up manually. I'll now need to select my wireless network, so I'll just type in that information real quick. In just a moment, you'll see the data and privacy screen, and I am not going to go into that because none of you care. Let's hit continue. And at this point, we're going to be prompted to set up Face ID. I'm going to skip this for this demonstration. It's absolutely something that all of you should do. And at this point, you're going to hold up your iPad and it's going to ask you to look left, look right, look up, look down, and scanning your face so that you can use your face for several different functions. You can use it for unlocking your iPad. You can ultimately use it for purchases that you make using Apple Pay. And one of the best functions is you can use it for filling your passwords. Even if you use Face ID, you still have to create a passcode. Now, as you can see here, it's asking me to create one that is 6 digits long. I always tell people, look, this is not really the password that you have to be so concerned about making complex. That's other stuff. So I'm going to change this over to a 4-digit passcode, and I'm going to do the thing that you should never ever do, and I'm going to make it 1111. And as you can see here, my iPad did not like that. It says it's too easily guessed. Well, guess what? This thing's getting wiped as soon as we're done with this demonstration, so let's make it 1111. We're now given several different ways that we can transfer data from other devices, including a Mac, PC, an Android device, another iPad. For this demonstration, we're going to not transfer any of that data. At this point, I'm going to need to either enter my Apple ID, or if you don't already have one, you're going to need to create one. In case you're not familiar with the term, an Apple ID is an identity that you create in order to purchase Apple products and services. For example, iCloud, Apple Music, or apps that you may purchase in the App Store. Terms and conditions. I'm going to spend as much time talking about this as you will reading it. I fast forwarded this next part quite a bit. Your iPad goes through a bit of a setup process. It takes a few minutes. Tap continue. At this point, it's going to ask you about location services. In general, I do recommend allowing location services. If you want to deny it to any apps, you can always do that on an individual basis, but overall, it's a good idea. This next screen is going to ask you if you want to set up Apple Pay. We're not going to do it right now, but I do want to say that in general, I think it's a really good idea to have Apple Pay and to register all of your different credit cards with it. And the biggest reason why I recommend it is because that way, anytime there's a charge on your credit card, you get a push notification about it. Now, in general, I don't like notifications, but that's one notification that I do want to know about. So that's the reason why I do generally recommend that you set up Apple Pay, even if you don't use it on a regular basis. It's now going to ask if you'd like to use iCloud Keychain. This is the part of iCloud that can allow you to store and sync your passwords. It's not a great solution for everyone, and whether or not it's right for you comes down to what devices you own and what web browsers you use. If you ever need help with password management, it's quickly become one of my specialties. At this point, you can choose whether or not to enable Siri, which is the voice assistant. In general, I do absolutely recommend it. If you go through this process, it's going to ask you to choose which voice you want it to use, and you're going to have to read a few different phrases into the microphone. You're going to see this screen to improve Siri and dictation. I absolutely do recommend that you use it. And for those of you out there who have trouble with Siri understanding you, you probably said no, and that's why it's not getting better. And on to screen time. Here's my general recommendation. Don't use it. Yes, you're on your devices too much. Yes, you neglect your kids. Yes, you neglect your pets. The floors could use a good scrubbing, and it's probably because you play too much Candy Crush. iPad analytics. Up to you. In general, no. When it comes to appearance, I don't recommend either of these. There's actually a third option that for some strange reason is not presented on this screen, so pick whatever you want. I'll show you how to change it in just a moment. And welcome to iPad. Let's get started. And here we have the home screen. But before we break down the home screen, the first thing that I want you to do if you just got a brand new iPad is to go into Settings, then tap on General, then tap on Software Update, and make sure that it is up to date. As you can see here, mine isn't, so I'm going to run that update and we'll be right back. And welcome back. Wasn't that last commercial a hoot? At this point, what I would like us to do is to go back into settings. There are a lot of settings that come one way, and I recommend that you change to another way. So let's start by tapping on your name here at the very top. I now want you to tap on where it says password and security. And here at the bottom, you will see an option to add something called a legacy contact. This feature is essentially how to create a digital will and was covered in a recent video that I created. This is something that I recommend every single iPhone or iPad user take the time to do. More than anything, this is about protecting your photos. If you would like to learn more about that feature, feel free to check out my video, again, called How to Create a Digital Will. Let's now tap to go back a page. And then let's tap into iCloud. iCloud is essentially a storage service run by Apple. Yes, I do recommend it. It's a great, easy way to back up and sync several aspects of your data. But that being said, it might not be something that you want to use for everything. For example, for me, on my iPhone, I use iCloud to store and sync my entire photo library. But on my iPad, I really don't care about having all of my photos. I really just want my favorites. If that sounds like something that you might be interested in, the way that you do that is you plug your iPad into your computer, and then you can choose from there to only sync specific albums. One of the options that I would like to clarify, because a lot of people find it confusing, if you were to tap on where it says iCloud Mail, in that process, you are actually creating a brand new email address that would end in @iCloud.com. Now, some of you may be looking to create a new email address, and if you are bombarded by junk mail, this works very well with the Hide My Email Address. So let's say you find something online that you find pretty and want to buy. If you use this feature, what it will do is when you create the account that buys that item, what it will allow you to do is to create a completely random email address. That way, if you get on their mailing list, you can shut it down. Let's now go back to the main menu. Obviously, I'm skipping over some parts here because otherwise we'd be here all day. Let's go here into notifications. My general advice is to turn most of these off, except for the important ones. So for me, I like to turn on notifications, of course, for messages as well as FaceTime calls. But for things like tips, no. Let's now skip down to focus mode. This is a relatively new feature to iPadOS where you can allow your iPad to go into different levels of do not disturb mode, and you can allow certain exceptions. So for example, if there are certain work colleagues that you want to be able to get through, you can add them. Maybe you have family members, you can add them. If we go back to the previous window, here you will see an option to share focus mode across your other devices. So for example, if I turn focus mode on my iPhone, it will share that status to my iPad. Some people like that, others don't. Let's now go back into general settings, and from here I'm going to tap on About. This is where you can find all of the most important information about your iPad, including what version of iPad OS it's running, the serial number, the amount of available space, total capacity, and more. Let's go back a screen and talk about a few other features, starting with AirDrop. AirDrop is a really amazing technology that you can use if you ever have either photos or video files and you want to send them from your device to someone else's device who is physically present. It's the absolute fastest way to move data. You can choose to receive AirDrop files either from everyone, only your contacts, or you can turn this feature off. There's technically two different ways that you can uninstall apps on your iPad. One of them is to go here into iPad storage and then tap on the app that you want to remove. Let's go with GarageBand, and then tap Delete App. Now you can repeat that process with any other apps that you don't actually use. Here at the top, you'll see I have a recommendation to offload unused apps. I'm definitely going to turn that one on. That will also help prevent me from overstuffing my iPad. Let's now go into the settings for Control Center. And before we get into the settings, I want to show you how to access it. To access Control Center, pull down from the top right corner of your iPad. Here you'll see a ton of helpful settings. I'll explain what each of those does in greater detail in just a moment, but for now what I want you to do is go through this list and look for any other tools that you might find useful. For example, I love having the Apple TV remote available, the keyboard brightness, and that's specifically for any of you who happen to buy the Magic Keyboard accessory. Also, I love having easy access to low power mode and screen recording. So now when I pull down from the top right corner, you'll see that all of those tools that I just added are here at the bottom. Again, we'll come back to this later on. Let's now go into display and brightness. You remember during the setup process that I mentioned that there's actually a third option in regards to light mode versus dark mode? Well, what I recommend you do is turn on automatic. That way, once the sun goes down, it's going to flip my iPad automatically from light mode to dark mode, and then in the morning, it'll switch it back. The next setting that I recommend you check out is night shift mode. If you decide to schedule it, what this will do is it will make the white balance of your iPad shift to warmer tones towards the end of the day. Let's once again go back to the previous menu, and now let's go into auto lock. As you can see here, your iPad by default will lock after 2 minutes. If you'd like to be a little bit longer, you can make that adjustment here. Let's now go back once again. And now let's go into text size. For those of you who have issues with your vision, this is where you can change all of the text across the board so that everything appears larger. Let's now go back once again. You'll also see an option to make all of the text bold. So for those of you who need a little bit more contrast, that's what it looks like. The next option you'll see in this list is display zoom. If we go back to what my home screen looks like, this is what it looks like in standard mode. I'm going to do a quick fast forward. This is what it looks like if I choose zoomed. So as you can see here, we have less room for apps, but everything in general is larger. Let's now tap into wallpaper options and then tap on choose a new wallpaper. If you want to go with one of the options provided by Apple, we have dynamic and still images to choose between. Dynamic wallpapers move, and while they're really cool, the problem that I have with them is these do generally use up a lot more battery life. So I tend to recommend that you either choose from one of these still images or you can use one of your own photos. One of the nice things about many of these options provided by Apple is you see all these options that have what appears to be a split screen. What that means is that it's going to shift, again, from light mode to dark mode once the sun goes down. Obviously, this is a demo machine, but this is the wallpaper that I actually use on mine. I just really love the coloring of it. It gives it a nice personality, plus it's functional. If we go back to the previous window, you'll notice all of these here are albums that are coming over from my photos. Notice we just set up this iPad and it's already synced over all of my photos. So if you're trying to find a photo from your own photo library, the easiest way to find it is just put it in an album and then you can pull it up here in wallpaper. If you skip the part where we set up Siri at the very beginning, if we go into the menu settings, here you'll see the option to turn on the HEY Siri, yes, I'm spelling it so I don't set off all your devices, feature on your iPad. Again, you'll go through the exact same training. You'll have to say a few phrases out loud. And the one little thing I want to emphasize is you should not read it like you're reading it. You want to actually say it like you would normally just say it out loud. I have 3 privacy-related settings that I would like you to check out. The first is here under tracking. Allow apps to track? Let me think about that for a minute.
Turn it off.
Now, let's go into Apple advertising, and here you'll find an option for personalized ads. My advice?
Turn it off.
And finally, let's jump down to settings for Safari, and here you'll find an option to prevent cross-site tracking. If we go here into Mail settings, this is where you can add any other email accounts to your iPad. All you have to do is tap on where it says Add Account, and then you can choose from any of those options, or if it's something else, just tap on where it says Other, and you'll have to enter in your username and password. One of the most common problems new iPad owners encounter is they discover that they have different information stored in different places. So, for example, if I were to add a Gmail account to my iPad, Gmail, like iCloud, also has the ability to store and sync things like contacts, calendars, and notes. So if you discover that you have duplicate data or missing data, whether it's contacts, calendars, or notes, the most likely cause is a syncing issue taking place in this part of settings. If you ever need help resolving those types of issues, I'm happy to help you if you book a one-on-one session with me, which of course you can do through my website, link in the video description. One of the settings you'll definitely want to check out here in calendar settings is your default calendar. So whenever you create a new appointment, what calendar do you want it to talk to? That does it for all of the most important settings I wanted to cover. So let's now go back to the home screen. You probably saw me do this earlier, but anytime you want to exit an app, all you need to do is swipe up from the bottom with one finger. Let's now take a moment to talk about what you see on the screen. Here at the top, we have a few examples of widgets, including the weather, a preview of my notes, calendar, and a large clock. If you want to add, edit, or remove a widget, just press and hold on it. To add a widget, press and hold on any app, and then tap on where it says Edit Home Screen. Now, tap the plus symbol at the top left. On the right-hand side of the screen, we have some popular widgets. But if I tap on any of the apps on the left-hand side, you will discover that many of these widgets come in different sizes where they display different amounts of information. So let's say you're constantly working with people who live in different parts of the world. You might want to consider going into the clock widget, and if we swipe to the side, you'll see that there's an option to add a widget that displays multiple time zones. If you follow the stock market and want to keep an eye on some of your top performing stocks, you might want to consider checking out one of the different stock widgets. Another option is you can create something called a smart stack. These are swipeable widgets that can contain information from multiple apps. I don't personally use smart stacks, but I'm definitely a fan of the traditional type. When it comes to deleting apps, you have a few different options. If you press and hold on an app, you will see an option to remove it. If I tap on that, I get two additional options. I can completely delete it, or if I'm just trying to clean house, I can remove it from my home screen, but it will still live in the app library. The fastest way to get to the library is you'll see it here at the bottom right of my dock. The other way to get to the app library is just swipe to the last page of apps and then tap into where it says App Library. If you want to group apps together into a folder, just press and hold on it and then tap Edit Home Screen. Once your apps go into jiggle mode, you can drag one into the other in order to create a folder. Your iPad will suggest a name for this folder, but if you would like to change it to something else, it's as easy as tapping into the title. Let's now go over some of the most important multi-touch gestures that you can use on your iPad. Let's start with an easy one. If I'm in an app and I want to go back to the last app that I used, all I need to do is use 4 fingers and swipe from left to right. One of the most important multi-touch gestures that we need to cover is how to get into the app switcher. To do this, it's very similar to how you get back to the home screen. The only difference is you need to add a pause. I'm going to drag my finger from the bottom center of the screen up, and once I hit the middle of my iPad, I'm going to let it hang out for a second and then let go. Now you can see all the apps that I have running in the background. If I want to completely quit an app from running, all I need to do is swipe up on it. Another option is you can run 2 apps side by side. To do that, from the app switcher, all I need to do is drag and drop one app into the other. If you want to give a little bit more room to one app over the other, just drag this vertical bar to the side. If you ever want to exit split screen view, just drag the vertical bar all the way to the side so that it exits the screen. Notification Center is where you can see every notification from all of your apps that have it enabled. To do that, it's very similar to the way that you access Control Center, but instead of swiping down from the top right, this time we're going to do it from the top center. Speaking of Control Center, let's go back to that, which again, we get to by swiping down from the top right. Here at the top left of this list, we have quick shortcuts to access airplane mode, AirDrop, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth settings. Many of these settings actually have multiple options which you can access by long pressing on it. So for example, if I want to adjust my AirDrop settings, I can long press into it to access those options. This button will lock the rotation of your iPad, which is really helpful if you're watching something like a movie and maybe your iPad is laying down flat on a table. If you have Apple TV, the box, not the service, you can mirror your iPad to your TV by tapping on this option. I also have sliders for volume and screen brightness. If I long press into brightness controls, you'll see that I have options to manually turn on dark mode, night shift, and true tone. You remember how the wallpaper I chose earlier has both a light and dark mode? Well, when I flip this switch, you can see how it looks. To turn your iPad off, just press and hold the top button as well as either of the volume buttons. When you see this screen, just swipe to turn it off. I'd now like to show you how to use copy and paste. To copy, press and hold on the area of text that you want to select. Now I can drag either of these dots to select my text. Then just tap on copy. Now let's say I want to paste this into an email. All we need to do is double tap and then select paste. If you ever make a mistake that you need to undo, check this out. All you need to do is shake your iPad. Then you'll get a pop-up asking if you'd like to undo the last move. I don't want to talk too much about accessories in this video, but there are two that I would like to recommend. The first is the Magic Keyboard. This product is made by Apple, and I'll warn you in advance, it is not cheap. But if you're looking for an amazing keyboard for the iPad, it's a superior option. Plus, one of the things I love about the Magic Keyboard is that it has a trackpad. That means I don't have to touch the screen nearly as much, and that means that my screen has fewer fingerprints on it. Another accessory that I'm a big fan of are these multifunctional cables. For example, this one here gives me USB Type A and C on one side, and USB-C and Lightning on the other side. These cables are really inexpensive. If you'd like to pick one up, I'll put a link in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Keep in mind, if you would ever like to work with me privately, that is one of the things I do, and I've come to refer to this as tech therapy. You can sign up for a 1-hour session by visiting my website at techtalkamerica.com. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already done so, please take a quick moment and hit that thumbs up like button, leave me a little comment down below, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This is David A. Cox with Tech Talk America. Class dismissed.